It's Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. You're listening to the DX Today AI Daily Brief. Today, the White House asks AI labs to hand over their most powerful models for early review. Chipmakers turn Computex into an all-out battle for the AI, PC, and venture money pours into the plumbing beneath the AI boom. Let's get into it.
The White House moved to the center of the AI debate. President Trump signed an executive order asking artificial intelligence developers to give the federal government a voluntary early look at their most powerful models, up to 30 days before public release. The order directs agencies to build benchmarks for a model's advanced cyber capabilities and to stand up an AI cybersecurity clearinghouse to identify and share software vulnerabilities at scale. It marks a notable shift from the administration's earlier hands-off posture. The measure is a scaled-back version of an order postponed last month, and participation remains voluntary, leaving open questions about how many leading labs will actually hand over pre-release access.
Now to the model wars.
At its Build conference, Microsoft unveiled a wave of in-house artificial intelligence models, signaling a push to depend less on partner OpenAI. The headliners were MAI Code 1 Flash, a model that turns plain language descriptions into working source code, and MAI Thinking 1, the company's first reasoning model trained from scratch on licensed data. Microsoft framed the lineup as cheaper, faster options for everyday developer workflows, part of a broader strategy of owning more of its model stack. The release lands as Microsoft balances a deep partnership with OpenAI against growing pressure to control costs and direction. Analysts noted the smaller models target efficiency rather than topping frontier leaderboards.
Over to Taipei.
Nvidia made its boldest move yet into personal computers. At Computex in Taipei, Chief Executive Jensen Huang introduced the RTX Spark, a Windows PC superchip built jointly with MediaTek. It pairs a 20-core ARM processor with a Blackwell graphics engine, promising up to 1 petaflop of AI compute and 128 gigabytes of unified memory in a single package. The chip runs Nvidia's full software stack natively and is slated to ship this fall in machines from Microsoft, Dell, HP, Asus, Lenovo, and MSI. The launch pushes Nvidia beyond the data center toward the so-called edge, where advanced models run directly on devices rather than the cloud.
The chip battle intensifies.
Qualcomm wants a seat at the data center table. At Computex, Chief Executive Cristiano Amon declared 2026 the year of the agent and unveiled Dragonfly, a new product brand spanning server processors, AI accelerators, and custom silicon. It's Qualcomm's most direct push yet beyond phones and into the high-performance infrastructure that powers AI services. Amon held back specifics, saying detailed products and roadmaps will come at an investor day later in June. Still, the branding stakes a claim in a market dominated by Nvidia, signaling that the mobile chip giant intends to compete across the entire computing stack, from edge devices all the way up to the cloud.
AMD answers back.
AMD used Computex to flex its on-device AI muscle. Chief Executive Lisa Su introduced the Ryzen AI Max Pro 400 series, which the company calls the first x86 client processor able to run a 300 billion parameter model entirely on a local machine. Built on AMD's Zen 5 architecture with an updated neural engine, the chip carries up to 192 gigabytes of unified memory. The pitch is squarely aimed at businesses wary of sending sensitive data to the cloud, and at developers who want to run large models at their desks. It deepens a Computex theme this year, pushing serious AI horsepower out of the data center and into everyday hardware.
Intel makes its case.
Intel laid out its own answer for the agentic era. At Computex, the company announced Xeon 6 Plus processors built on its Intel 18 manufacturing process, engineered for sustained performance under real-world power limits. Intel paired that with new rackscale AI infrastructure, combining its Xeon chips, SambaNova's reconfigurable data flow units, and Nvidia graphics processors, aimed at companies scaling inference and agentic workloads. A newly formed enterprise inference cloud, backed by Vista Equity Partners and Cambium Capital, showed off a fully disaggregated design running on the mix. For Intel, still working to regain momentum in AI, the message was that its latest silicon is ready for demanding, always-on agent workloads.
Now to cyber defense.
Anthropic widened its push into cyber defense. The company expanded its Project Glasswing initiative, extending Claude Mythos preview access to roughly 150 additional organizations across more than 15 countries. The expansion folds in new sectors, including power, water, healthcare, communications, and hardware, and adds Claude Security, a tool that scans code bases and suggests patches. The move positions Anthropic's models as defensive infrastructure for critical industries, a notable framing as governments increasingly treat AI as a national security concern. It also dovetails with this week's policy news as Washington presses for better tools to find and fix software vulnerabilities across the economy at speed.
Following the money.
There was big money in AI plumbing. DriveNets, an Israel-based networking company, announced a $410 million Series D round, lifting its total capital raised to $1 billion. The firm builds software that helps stitch together the massive clusters of chips behind modern AI, a layer that's become a bottleneck as models and data centers balloon in size. Investor appetite for the unglamorous infrastructure beneath AI has surged, with networking, cooling, and power increasingly seen as where the next constraints and the next fortunes lie. The raise underscores how capital is flowing not just to model makers, but to the companies wiring the data centers that run them.
Into 3 dimensions.
Three-dimensional AI is having a moment. Tripo AI disclosed nearly $200 million in fresh funding to advance its work on 3D generation and so-called world models, systems that learn to simulate physical environments. The technology sits at the crossroads of gaming, robotics, and design, where the ability to conjure detailed 3D scenes and objects from a prompt could reshape how digital worlds get built. World models are also drawing intense interest as a path toward AI that understands physics and space, not just text. The investment signals that backers see 3D and simulation as a serious frontier, well beyond the chatbots that have dominated the conversation so far.
Now, the power problem.
The energy crunch behind AI drew a major bet. Maxwell Power landed a $750 million capital commitment tied to battery storage and solar deployment, aimed at feeding the enormous electricity demands of AI data centers. As tech giants pour hundreds of billions into computing, power has emerged as the hard ceiling on growth, with grid capacity and clean energy in short supply. The commitment reflects a wave of investment in the unglamorous foundations of the AI boom, where electrons matter as much as algorithms. It's a reminder that the race to scale artificial intelligence is, increasingly, also a race to generate and store the power that runs it.
AI meets the tax code.
AI is creeping into the back office of global commerce. Fonoa, a Dublin-based company building an AI-powered tax operating system, raised a $110 million Series C round led by Headline. The platform automates tax determination, validation, and reporting for businesses selling across borders, a thicket of rules that's notoriously painful to manage by hand. As companies expand internationally and regulators tighten digital tax enforcement, automating compliance has become a sizable opportunity. The round reflects growing investor conviction that AI will quietly transform unglamorous but essential corporate functions, turning tedious financial plumbing into software that runs largely on its own.
One more before we go.
And we close with a smaller but telling raise. Sekai, an AI startup, secured a $20 million Series A round, co-led by Khosla Ventures and Connect Ventures, with a roster of additional backers. While modest, next to this week's mega rounds, the deal reflects how early-stage capital keeps flowing into AI, even as the giants soak up most of the headlines. Seed and Series A investors are betting that the next defining companies are being built right now in the gaps the incumbents leave behind. For founders, the message from this week is clear. Despite consolidation at the top, the door to AI's next chapter is still wide open.
That's your briefing for Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. For DX Today, stay curious.